Hello everybody, welcome to the Dinosaur World Rescue Coaches Meeting. I'm going to wait just here a couple minutes to get everybody on board that wants to watch tonight. There is the Q&A option that you can send a text message to us. We will answer it throughout the coaches meeting. But just so you know, this meeting is going to take probably about an hour. We're going to go over the general rules. We're going to go over, more importantly, the Dinosaur World Rescue Challenges, mission and rules. So welcome to everybody. I just want to state that this year we have exceeded last year's participation level. We have increased by at least 25%. So there's a lot of new coaches, a lot of new team members, a lot of new schools participating. And so therefore with the general rules, coaches, you need to empower your students to go over the general rules. General rules include the basic operation of the RCX program, your team construction, or your team makeup, the design and construction of your robot, how you should practice and get your kids ready for tournaments. So the general rules covers a lot of areas. And there's several points with the general rules that I'd like to kind of go over with you tonight. And just to kind of start that off with the general rules, you know, there's times when I've gone to tournaments and we're at a tournament and a kid is trying to do something at the tournament that the general rules have told them that they are not allowed to do. So the ones that come out most importantly are the general rules that follow touch penalties, which are rules number 6. And at the tournament, there are no paper documents allowed to be brought to the table. The only thing that's allowed at the table are your robot, your Legos, and your students. No kind of paper, tablet, or other device that is separate from your robot is allowed to be brought to the competition board. Every tournament I go to, I have students bringing papers and other devices that they're not allowed to have. The other thing that a lot of tournaments I have a problem with is practice mats. We do not provide a practice mat for all the teams at the tournament, so therefore it's an unfair advantage if one school brings a practice mat to the competition. So no practice mats are allowed. That can result in disqualification if you're caught using a practice mat, and we don't want to upset the kids by things that the adults have done. So make sure no practice mats. So that's kind of the things with the general rules, the touch penalties, the tournament. Those are the things with the general rules that really stick out for me. But overall, coaches, empower your students to read the general rules, empower your students to review all the videos that are provided for this year's challenge, and the Q&A. The Q&A is available for coaches to request clarification on different rules or missions. And the responses that are replied to the Q&A will be the policy that we will follow for the tournaments. So make sure you have your team members review the Q&A. Even if you don't have a question yourself, those questions and answers are your responsibility for your students to understand. Okay? Did you have a question?
Jeremy wants to be brought on video.
Okay. Jeremy wants what? Okay. Let's go back to a couple things. There's still some time for those of you out in the Purchase area of Kentucky to get the TDR grant. We have a couple opportunities available for those schools out there. Videos I wanted to clarify will be posted on Facebook tonight live, but they'll also be posted for you to watch in the future on Facebook and YouTube. And communication to all the coaches. I use a service that posts the email to your email address and a social media post on Facebook. So if you're the bookkeeper or you're the head coach and you have others assistant coach, parents, students who want to get email notifications, make sure you go to the RCX website. On the home page, across the top by the picture, there's the word subscribe. Fill out the form with subscribe, and you'll be added to my contact list for future email communications. All right? And that pretty much covers all that kind of thing. One other thing that coaches have asked me, I'm the coach for more than one school, or I'm the school district who's purchasing supplies for multiple schools. Each school that participates has to purchase one Dinosaur World Rescue Challenge set. So if the district's buying a set for the middle school and the elementary school, they need to purchase 2 sets, one for each school to participate. If you're a coach and you're coaching students for 2 schools, and let's just say those 2 schools happen to be 2 elementary schools within your school district, but you're the coach representing those kids. Each school needs to purchase a separate Dinosaur World Rescue Challenge set for each individual school to participate at the regional tournaments. All right? And that's one of the things that it's not really out there as a general rule, but it is the policy that any school that participates purchases the challenge set. And the other thing, if you're a school and you purchase the challenge set, you can have multiple teams participate at the tournaments. There is an additional fee per team, but you can have as many teams as you're willing to sponsor and participate at a regional tournament. Regional tournaments do seed the state tournament at the STLP State Championship. So we've got several regions this year that are new, basically. We've got Marion County is a regional host for the first time this year. And Logan County in our Bowling Green area, we're trying to re-energize a regional site down there. We had a lot of people retire and move on with COVID and everything. The regional network has kind of been shuffled and a little in chaos, but we're going to try to reestablish all old regional sites. So just know that across the state, we're going to try to get as many regional sites as possible. The one area that is still needing a regional host is the Lexington or Fayette County area. We need a regional site somewhere between Richmond and Georgetown. There's a number of teams in that area that would like to participate at a regional site, but as of this meeting, the closest one for you guys is either Louisville or Northern Kentucky at Walton Verona. So we need a host to step up somewhere in that Lexington region. And so that's pretty much going to conclude all the things I got, kind of like housekeeping things I got to go over. And the most important thing that you guys as coaches want to do tonight is go over the Dinosaur World Challenge setup and whatnot. So I'm going to take a quick break here. My cameraman will follow me around here, but I'm going to stop talking for a minute, and we're going to go over the challenge setup starting at the safe zone. All right, folks, we're going to start this meeting here with the setup of the mission objects in the safe zone. And part of the general rules says you have a safe zone area bordered by the black line. All right. And you also have the extension of safe zone to your right. So any object in the safe zone may be placed on a chair, a desk, or a table that's provided by your tournament host, called the extension of safe zone. All right. We'll go around the board now clockwise, and we'll explain the different mission objects. We have, well, let's start in the safe zone and explain them first. We've got our professor, our paleontologists, our water lilies, our poison flower. We have our fence, which you have 2 of them. we have our Triceratops, our baby Triceratops. We have the eggs and the toolbox. Those will all start to match in the safe zone and are considered deliverable objects. Next, we'll go around the board clockwise. We have a touch penalty. We have 2 rubber tires. They just sit on the mat, just like that. We have our rock face, which will be dual locked, and I'll show you how to dual lock this in a minute. We have another touch penalty. We have our experiment, which is dual locked down, and currently it is in the position for you to activate. This is a scoring jig, which I'll explain in a minute. We have our target area for the poison flower, our T-Rex, our target area for our paleontologist dig area. Move the dual lock out of the way. We have up in this corner, we have the quad platform area, which you'll be able to position objects on the mat or elevated on the quad platform. We have another touch penalty. We have your debris arm here, your volcanic debris arm, which activated will throw these little green rims that are here. We have our boulder, which will be positioned in the vertical with the center focal point over the center there. At the tournament, it may be tilted to your right or to your left. We have your pterodactyl nest, another touch penalty. We have the bridge. Let's go back over here by the lake. We have our palm tree, which is dual locked down, our pink flower, which is dual locked down, and another baby Triceratops. We have 2 positions in the lake for you to deliver the water lilies. There's a higher score for the white ring. Now let's come over here to the nursery. And the nursery is kind of confusing, but the nursery is made to make your kids problem solve. So basically in the nursery, you'll see a touch penalty, you'll see the cedar tree, and you'll see the Brachiosaurus. And I will explain how these little rings and circles, based on the missions and the mission objects, how you have to position objects to score here. All right, so let me pull up my phone and I want to get started on the mission and how the missions will work. Let's see. So if you can, I'm going to wait here for a few minutes, well, for a minute. If you haven't already, go to the RCX website, pull up the Dinosaur World Rescue missions so that you can follow along with me. All right. And just like other missions over the past year, we have changed the direction of the quad platform. And so the first thing for the missions are basically rule changes from the general rules. The safe zone is in the southeast corner and the quad platform is in the northwest corner. So the general rules we had to adjust. So review those and make the proper adjustment. There's also about robots with Lego, and the EV3 has been retired. You now have the opportunity to continue using the EV3 if you still have the software working. Otherwise, the Spike Prime is the new Lego robot. Also, the Lego Robot Inventor is the retail version of the Spike Prime. You can use that robot as well. So both of those robots are acceptable. And pretty much we went over how to set up the mission objects. And one of the things I want you to do when you read these mission objects, read them with your team. You might say some of the stuff is confusing or it's contradictory, but there's a couple phrases I want you to keep in mind. Haste makes waste, risk, reward, and time has value. Some of these missions are designed for you to think. Do you take the easy way and push an object or retrieve an object for the easy score? Or do you combine it, which is a little harder, for a higher score? So therefore there's your risk reward. There's other missions out here that you can do that when you first read them, you might think you're going to move the mission object in one direction. But if you read the mission after it, you may rethink and move that mission object in a different way. So what I want your team to do is sit down and strategize, discuss the missions, and decide which mission objects should be moved, which objects should stay for the best opportunity to score for your team. All right? It's kind of like playing chess. You got to strategize. The other things when you get to the missions, you're going to find words like in, on, touch, unite, and so on. Those are key words. If it says touch, the mission object must touch. Okay? You can't have it elevated off the surface of the map. If it says do not touch, the mission object can't touch the map. So make sure you read these missions quite carefully. Okay? While I'm thinking of it, let's go over here to the rock face. And you have several objects that need to be dual locked. The easiest way to dual lock these, and I'm just going to do the rock face, is you put the dual lock on your mat. Alright? See how they're secured? And these are not secured yet. So what you do is you put the top and bottom of the dual lock together, and you peel off one section, and you put it over the D and L. Alright? And then you do it again. And for the rock face, there are 8 of these you have to do. But it's easier when you put both top and bottom dual lock together. Alright? Now, if you're in the classroom, I'm going to tell you take off all 8 pieces of dual lock. Take off the top of all 8. But for this coaches meeting, I'm just going to take off 2. So now, take your mission object, after you've got the dual lock top peeled off, and notice how there's a gray plate and a green plate. Gray and green. The outline on the mat is the exact size of those Legos. Place that right on top and fasten it down. Alright? So you're going to do that for the rock face, the experiment, the volcano debris mission object, the pterodactyl nest, the pink flower, and the palm tree. All those mission objects need to be dual locked down before you start practicing. When you show up at a tournament, all these mission objects that I've discussed will be positioned. All the mission objects that are dual locked will be dual locked down. The only thing that can move these mission objects out here once you're at a tournament is your robot. The referee will not remove the tree because you happen to practice with the tree out of the way. The tree will be dual locked in position, and all the other objects will be placed in position throughout the mat. So make sure at practice, you practice with all the objects on the mat, the correct objects dual locked in the correct position. Okay? So, now, I guess I'm at a point where, is there any questions? Has anybody sent me any questions? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to go back and we're going to start with mission 1, or actually we're going to start with mission letters. And basically mission letters are partially, which is a P, or completely, which is a C. So what this means is I'm going to deliver the water lily for a simple demonstration. I'm going to deliver it with my robot to this ring out here in the blue. It is, you receive a partial score if it's partially in the ring or completely. And I will go over each mission has a P or a C attached to it to help you as the team practices know how they're going to receive a score, whether it's partial or complete. So we'll put the water lily back. All right. Now to start off, as a team approaches for tournaments, they're going to approach the mat, and they're going to put their robot on in the safe zone area. They have extra supplies, they'll put those on the extension of safe zone. Mission 1 is the volcano or volcanic lava objects, which are objects that are not found on the mat. Your team needs to construct them. From Legos you have at school, team members will construct them, and when they approach the mat, the referee, they have to explain to the referee and give a description. This is part of the public speaking aspect of the RCX program. They have to be willing to speak to the referee in a professional manner. Explain in detail what these Legos represent. And I'll read the definition of this. Design and construct a minimum of 2 volcanic lava objects. Each volcanic lava object must be constructed of multiple Legos. Describe your volcanic lava objects to your referee for a score. Rather simple. Show it to the referee, describe it to the referee, and you'll receive a score of 25 points. You will need those mission objects from mission 1 later on during the match. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, mission 2, relocate the water lilies. Alright, so we'll just go back to the safe zone, grab the water lily. The robot must deliver it to the black ring or the white ring. Partial or completely in gets you a score. If it's in the black ring, it's worth 25 points. If it's in the white ring, it's worth 40 points.
I have a question. There's a minimum number of lava objects. What's the max number?
Okay, I will actually explain your question.
And is there a size requirement for the lava objects?
Okay, I'll explain the number in a subsequent mission, but the size is based on multiple Legos. So multiple means more than one. So it could be as few as 2, as many as your team wants to do. So technically you could have one lava object that's consisting of 2, 1 of 3, 1 of 4. It's just designed, the mission's designed for your team members to construct something with multiple Legos and describe it to the referee. I hope that answered your question. But I will answer the second part of your question in like mission 5 or 6. Okay? It's easier to explain it with that mission. So, let's go on to mission 3, and that's relocate the professor to the ring area at the rock face. And this is partially or completely. Take your professor, the robot can deliver the professor to the rock face, partially or completely in that ring. Sounds simple. If it's delivered, the professor is worth 35 points. The next one, the robot must activate the experiment. And this one's a little tricky. This one here is currently elevated. Get a side view. It's currently elevated. That's how it's going to start at the match. Your robot must activate these arms downward. This is a scoring jig that you will need to provide from your own Legos. Notice it's a 3x5 beam, 2 of them with a couple black pegs. And to score, the jig needs to hit these little arms. If your team nudges it and if it slides underneath, there's no score. But if your team pushes it forward and it hits, you receive a score. Now you receive separate scores for each side of the experiment. Okay, if one arm is activated, you receive 50 points. If both arms are activated, you receive 80 points. Now this arm to score may be all the way down, maybe partially down, but as long as your jig can hit it, you receive a score. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the target area right here. And we want to put our T-Rex to sleep. Now I'm going to read this mission because this is one of the ones where your team has to think. Unite the T-Rex and the poisonous flower mission objects in the same area to receive a score. Put the T-Rex to sleep at the target area in the meadow, which would be this one here. Okay? There's multiple options there. Option A is put the T-Rex to sleep here, which means the poisonous flower must be in the target area and the T-Rex must be repositioned in the target area. Now just see how the T-Rex's feet are touching the mat, but his head is over. Go look from above, looking down. See how his head is over the brown, the middle ring? Okay? So you would receive scores based on the poison flower being green, taupe, or brown, and the T-Rex being green, taupe, or brown. And the points are outlined there for each object being in that area to be able to score. All right? Question.
For the experiment, how far up are the arms for the experiment as far as they will go?
Yes, they're all the way up. So for the experiment, they won't go any further. So when you put them up, the Lego won't move any further. The robot will have to push them down. Okay? So getting back to mission 5. Part A is to put the poison flower and the T-Rex in this area. Or you can read part B. Capture the T-Rex by bringing the dinosaur to the safe zone. So if the dinosaur comes to the safe zone, you get a score. Now I'm going to make sure you understand the key word is unite. So for mission 5, unite is the key word to be able to score the T-Rex at the safe zone. And I'm going to leave that one there. We'll put T-Rex back on his position over here. The next one is to take the paleontologist from the safe zone to the dig. Taking from the safe zone, delivering to the black ring out here in the dig area. And if you notice, where did I go here? It says, place the paleontologist in the ring with the dinosaur skeleton. Partially or completely receive 35 points. The second part of that is take the blue toolbox and deliver the blue toolbox to the area, partially or completely. But it says not touching. So what that means is you have to elevate the blue toolbox somehow with Legos so that it's not touching the mat. Okay? So the blue toolbox cannot touch the mat. And this is a good area to demonstrate what partially and completely means because it's a nice big area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the paleontologist, and if you deliver the paleontologist outside the ring, that's no score. If you deliver the paleontologist so that he's over the ring, that's partially, that's a score. Or completely in for a score. Now let's say you somehow deliver your paleontologist and he's standing there outside, but his hand is over the ring. That's partially in. So you receive the partial score. So my demonstration with your paleontologist goes for all mission objects, whether it's at the dig, and here in the meadow, pterodactyl, anywhere that's got a border, outline, partial, complete, they're all treated the same way. I just demonstrated with your paleontologist. Whether it's touching or vertical, as long as it's partially in, it receives the score. Okay? So we'll move him back here. And let's go to the next one. Enter the volcano. Mission 7. Place the volcanic lava rocks from Mission 1 at the volcano. They must touch the surface. Okay? So if they touch the mat, 25 points each. If they're on the quad platform, I'm going to move this table over here. That'll represent my quad platform. Let me go get my lava rock. So if your lava rock is touching, receive 25 points. If your lava rock is elevated to on top of the quad platform and touches, it receives 35 points. Alrighty, now where did I go here? My phone keeps doing this. Now, you can place your robot underneath, partially, to get 35 points. Or put him on top of the quad for 80 points. So you can put your robot and your lava rocks on the mat, and they must touch, or upon the quad, they must touch to receive scores. Now to answer the question from earlier about how many lava rocks you're allowed to have. 7A. Place the volcanic lava rocks from Mission 1 at the volcano. They must touch the surface. If you notice, there is a maximum score of 120 points. So how many lava rocks do you need to be touching the surface for 120 points? How many lava rocks do you need for on top of the quad platform for 120 points? So it's actually a different number depending upon if you deliver them under the mat, under the quad on the mat, or on top of the quad. So as your team strategizes for Mission 1, how many lava rocks do you need? It depends upon Mission 7, whether you deliver it on the mat or on top of the quad. So send me a thumbs up if that answers your question from earlier. All right. Now Mission 8, volcano debris. This one here is explained in the construction video, but this object's dual locked down. The robot must activate it. You get a score for each one that gets removed by the arm. Now make sure that you place these objects in the first hole, in the 7th hole, because sometimes they'll stick on that little green peg that's in the middle if they're placed in the wrong hole. All right? But that's what you're going to do for mission 8, is activate the volcano debris, hit that arm, make the debris fly. Mission 9, make the boulder roll away. Figuratively speaking, make the boulder roll. You need to take this boulder and place it on another rock. This outline here is a rock. This outline here is a rock. Rock, rock, rock. If you look all over the mat, there's about 20 rocks. Take this boulder, make it roll away, and push it so it's over one of those. Doesn't matter which one. Team members, you decide which rock you want your boulder to go over. And I noticed on the mission object it doesn't say partial or complete, but this should be a partial or complete score, so that if you move the boulder and it's partially over it or completely over it, you get the score. Okay? Pterodactyl nest. This one will be dual lockdown, and you receive a score for delivering the egg from the safe zone to the pterodactyl nest. Partially or completely gets you the score in the tan or brown. And that's mission 10. Mission 11 is the bridge. And you got your lake, and you got this little blue stream. You need to take the bridge, and let me read it for you. Reposition the bridge over the blue stream. This is the blue stream. No part of the gray or green Legos of the bridge may touch the blue stream. So you have to reposition the bridge such that the blue stream, the blue part of the mat, is not touched by any Lego. So let's say you tilt it on its side. The gray Lego is now touching the blue stream. You will not receive a score. You need to reposition the bridge such that any part of this blue stream it covers without touching the blue. Okay? Now, here's the one that your team's really going to have to strategize. There's multiple ways to score. There's bonuses for scoring. Okay? So basically what you have is you have 5 objects. Starting in the safe zone, you have 2 fences, 1 triceratops. Out here by the lake, you have a second triceratops. Over here, you have the brachiosaurus. You have to reposition those 5 objects for a score. There's unlimited ways to score. So, let's just say you push out your fence and your pterodactyl. Partially or completely, they receive a score, and they're placed on the ring there. Each one is on the ring, each one scores. Okay? 10 points for each one. Let's say the brachiosaurus, you move into that ring. He receives a score as well. Your other baby triceratops receives a score as well. So, you can receive a score for all these 5 objects over any one of the 5 rings. You receive a higher score if you place one object over each ring, partially or completely, and you receive the highest score if you position the fence on the white, the baby triceratopses on the green, and the brachiosaurus on the purple. So just know you can receive a score for placing all of these, shuffle them up, and you can place them wherever you want, and as long as they're touching a ring, they score. But if you want the highest score, make sure there's only one object on a ring. And for the highest score, make sure they are placed like that. So, as I stated on the beginning, there's a lot of problem solving that your team needs to discuss. The key words were time value, risk reward. This is what I'm talking about. You can receive a lot of points by not necessarily doing a lot of work if you think it through. And as I'm standing here, I noticed the touch penalty. I didn't go over the touch penalties. So, the touch penalties this year, there's 5 of them. And we went over their location earlier. But just know that if you have the touch penalties anywhere on the mat at the end of the match, they're worth 5 points each. If you take the gray rocks and relocate them back to the safe zone, they are worth 15 points each. Okay? For a maximum of 75 if you get them all back to the safe zone. Okay? And then I guess the other thing that I need to go over is touch penalties. This is probably one of the things that is teams and the excitement of the tournament. At the start of the match, the referee will place all the touch penalties across the mat. As team members have their robot drive out into the field, oh, I made a mistake. The team member touches the robot, brings it back to the safe zone. The referee will take the westernmost touch penalty first. Now let's say subsequently your robot goes out later on during the match and they touch it a second time. The referee will take the westernmost, which is this one, and continue with each subsequent touch with the touch penalties that are left. Even if you take the rock back to the safe zone this year, the referee can take the rock for touch penalties. That's different than what we did last year. So touch penalties may be taken by the referee whether they're on the mat, in the safe zone, or the extension of safe zone. Okay? So make sure you program your robot in a way that you don't have to touch the robot. Now, one of the things that's a little confusing for teams is, let's say we have our first touch penalty and the referee takes it. And in the process of the robot moving this touch penalty, this rock gets moved here. Well, the referee for the second touch penalty will come out. What is the westernmost? This one's already taken. This one's not here. Oh, the westernmost is now this one. So the referee will take this one. And if there's a third touch penalty, the referee will take this one, fourth, and fifth. Yes, question?
Does the robot have to be entirely in the safe zone in order to grab it without a penalty?
So, just like with the paleontologist, partially or completely, your robot is in the safe zone. And read the general rules because it goes into details with the general rules. But your robot, any part of your robot that touches the surface must be in the safe zone. So let's say, what's a good object out here? I've got an object like an arm on my robot. Anything that touches the surface has to be within the black line. My arm extends above and outside. That is not touching the surface, so it is allowed. So the robot can do that. Right? So the robot can go out, activate, manipulate, whatever it wants to do. And let's say it's going to recover the touch penalty and come back. Well, it's actually in the safe zone, and the robot is controlling the touch penalty or the gray rock that is not in the safe zone. So because the robot, the arm are in, this object is considered in, and your team member can touch it and bring it the rest of the way in. Does that answer your question? The one thing with the, if I've got my robot, and let's say my robot is going to deliver the paleontologist. So my robot controls the paleontologist. My robot leaves the safe zone, and for whatever reason, your team member touches the robot. The paleontologist, which is a deliverable object, will be taken by the referee and placed on the mat where the team member touched the robot. The team member will take his robot back to the safe zone and start over from within the safe zone. However, they will no longer have that deliverable object. The deliverable object will stay in the field in the approximate location of the touch penalty. The same way as for retrievals. If the object is in the process of retrieving an object, like our little Triceratops, your robot's bringing it back, and for some reason it gets stuck on the palm tree and can't move, well, touch penalty, the robot will come back to the safe zone, the referee will place the Triceratops where the touch occurred and take one of the gray rocks for the touch penalty. So review the general rules, think it through. It may get a little confusing being your first time, but just know that anytime your team member touches the robot outside the safe zone, it's considered a touch penalty. As long as the touching part is over the black, an arm may extend out. If you have a deliverable, the deliverable may not touch the surface. It must be off the surface. If by some chance your team member thinks, it's in the wrong angle and part of the robot is still in the safe zone, your team member can take the robot and the deliverable with no penalty. And they do not lose control of the deliverable. So as long as part of the robot is in, it's all in. If you go out and come back, as long as part of the cover goes over the black line, you're considered in. So just know that I'm trying to give the team members the best opportunity as far as touch penalties and the limited assessment of touch penalties by allowing things to extend beyond the black border of the safe zone. And when it comes back in, the same courtesy is given to the kids that once it breaks the plane, even though it's outside, they still control that deliverable or retrievable object. This year is heavy on deliverables, where in years past there's been a 50-50 kind of retrievable, deliverable, but this year it's heavy on deliverables. Okay? I think that about covers everything I've got. Just know that when you read this or you watch this, any video you see on YouTube, on Facebook, I've tried to turn off the comment section. I may have overlooked it. But if you have a question, the only fair way to respond to your question is you or a team member to go to the RCX website, on the rules page, on the Q&A. Click there, put the Q&A question through the RCX webpage. I will reply to your Q&A within a few days. And then other teams, other schools have the same opportunity to review your question and my response. If I have Q&A posted on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the RCX webpage, it causes too much confusion. So the only place that that I will answer a Q&A type question is through the RCX webpage. Click on the Q&A or the question mark, post your question regarding mission 1, and then post your question. If it's a general rule, post a general rule 6 whatever, and I'll give you a response. So I know in the past different teams have tried to email me and different teams have posted things elsewhere. But I got to be fair to everybody and post it in one location. Do I have a question?
This is a board question. The area above the volcano, this is in a different location on our board this year from where the actual wooden raised area is on our board.
So 3 years ago, the quad was in this corner. Last year, we changed it to that corner. So if you notice on the mission and roles page, the first thing is the roles changes. That will tell you that the mat needs to be placed on the north wall and the west wall because the safe zone is in the southeast and your quad platform is now in the northwest. So I'm assuming based on what you've said, your quad is attached over here as it was in the past. Just unscrew it and reattach it to the opposite corner. And all the rules and missions will go from east to west. Okay?
Can you explain Mission 5, put the T-Rex to sleep scoring again?
This is one where the key word for Mission 5 is the word unite. And of course my phone timed out. The key word in that is unite. And you have to unite the poisonous flower and the T-Rex in some area. So you pick the area where you want to unite the T-Rex and the poisonous flower. It could either be out here in the meadow at the target, or it could be over here at the safe zone. I don't want to give a definite answer which would give away. This is one of those missions where you have to strategize time value, risk reward. There's 2 correct answers basically to this mission. You can either score here or score here, and the key word in that mission is the word unite. So unite means you have to have the poison flower and the T-Rex together. Question?
It's the only acceptable way to deliver the toolbox on top of Legos. Are there other acceptable methods?
Well, can you clarify, because you're only allowed to use Legos, whether you construct the robot attachments, deliverable boxes, corrals. So you can only use Legos if that's what your team strategizes. And it can't touch the mat, so it has to be elevated. And there's several ways that I can think of to elevate the toolbox without giving you an answer. I know that doesn't give you the answer you want, but you have to use some kind of Lego to elevate it. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay. Well,
Okay.
the one thing as coaches, this is meant to be a chess game. This is meant to be strategy. So for your team members, when you review the missions, as I stated earlier, There's key phrases, or what I want you to do or use when you approach the missions with your team. Haste makes waste, risk reward, and time has value. Use the 3 minutes for the clock to the best of your ability. Use the missions that your team has the ability to do. Some teams can only push pull, some teams can elevate and activate. So use the ability of your team members and their ability to program the robot to address these missions in a manner that will get them their best outcome. Question?
Somebody's getting the new robot. What program do they use to program it? Is it the same one as the EV3?
If you're buying the Spike Prime or the Robot Inventor, they are downloadable from Lego or Lego Education. So there should be instructions in the box that'll tell you what website to go to through Lego and download the software. So I do know that the Spike Prime and Robot Inventor are not compatible with the EV3 or the NXT Mindstorm robots. So the software that you had from the previous robots, if you no longer can use them, the new Spike Prime, that software no longer works. It's a different format, different coding method for the programs. And there's a couple, as far as price, the Spike Prime is like $350, and then there's an expansion set for another $150, so it's actually $500. I recommend getting the expansion set if you can. The Robot Inventor, if I remember correctly, was like $375 to $400. Again, the Spike Prime is through Lego Education. It has the ability for curriculum through Lego Education for your classroom. But if you wanted to buy a second or third robot, that's the Robot Inventor. It's still the same software, so you can basically use the curriculum through Lego Education for all robots that are Spike Prime or Robot Inventor. So Lego Education does provide some curriculum and some other tools for your students to use, which, you know, price-wise, I've discussed this with different teachers, different coaches. I recommend buying the Spike Prime plus the expansion set, and then for a second, third team, financially, go to the Robot Inventor, buy a second Spike Prime. Each set has a few different attachments, sensors, whatnot, that are different, but ultimately both robots are the same. There's different reviews out there on the web that pretty much compares them. There's some advantages as far as sensors from one to the other, but they're essentially the same robot. One sold through retail, one sold through Lego Education. So that's a long-winded version of what to buy. Okay? Because I know each school is using their funds to the best of their ability, so just use your funds the best way you can. Any other questions? Well, if there's no other questions, we tried different Legos this year by using the Duplo Legos. Know that one of the problems with the Duplo is when you attach them, sometimes the Lego comes apart from the Duplo. So when you attach the dual lock, your robot may actually knock this off, but this will stay here on the surface. So anywhere there is a Duplo Lego and a normal Lego that's dual locked, there's a good chance that the two types or two styles Legos are going to fall apart. But this will still be an obstacle that will remain on the mat even though the top comes off. We were just trying something different this year to see how things would work. And we like some of the stuff about it because it's easy, it's pre-made, and the dinosaur theme is one of those things we felt the kids would really appreciate. So just know that ultimately some of these objects are not constructed as tight or as well as we have in the past. So, you know, like the rubber tires, they're not dual lock down, but you try to push this with your robot, and your robot may get stuck, hung up on it. Different objects for your teams to consider when they're running around the mat, the robot. And we are going to do a test site for remote control this year. One of our regions is going to do a remote control challenge. We haven't got all the details down, but I believe what we're going to do is the match is going to be 3 minutes as normal, and part of it will be autonomous where the team has to program, part of it will be remote control. And we haven't nailed down exactly whether it's going to be 50-50, like a minute and a half autonomous, a minute and a half remote control. But it's one of those test things where, you know, how do teams react to a remote control style robot versus the autonomous? And how does the ability to activate or manipulate mission objects through remote control impact time? So we're going to test it out this year, we're going to review it, and maybe in the future we'll take it statewide as far as a combination autonomous remote control. But we're just seeing how things work, seeing how your students react to it, and we'll review that at the end of the school year before the 23-24 school year. We'll make a decision as far as what will happen with remote control. Okay. Other than that, I probably will post on a bi-weekly, just kind of Q&A kind of stuff, reminders with different coaches. December, team registration for regional tournaments will be activated. So plan on, for those of you who want to register your teams, team registration will start December 1st. Most regional sites are limited for participation. We do still need a regional host in the Lexington-Fayette County area. And there is the virtual tournament, which I know I have not posted a time for that tournament, but it will be in that March window before the STLP State Championships. And if your school wants to have multiple teams participate, you will have the ability to register multiple teams. Just know that the sooner you register in December, the better you will be to participate at a regional site that you wish. The team registration will close on January 31st. So other than that, I can get really wordy and just keep babbling on. But if you have any other last minute questions, I'll give you like 30 seconds to send me a question. Otherwise, I'm going to let you folks enjoy the rest of your day, and hope all you enjoy the challenge. Okay. So, everybody's going to ask me a question? I hope I was a little cheerier with this video than the other construction videos, because I reviewed them and I thought Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh was giving you the instructions for construction. So I hope it was a little more cheery. So, all right, no questions. So thank you everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.